Hey everyone, today we're ranking the enemies of RE4 Remastered from least to most scary. We'll be looking at the visuals of the characters, how difficult they are in gameplay, and lore too. Let's get into it. Not scary is our first tier. Vipers are going to start us off here. Yeah, I thought I would include them. They do after all attack you in some fashion, without provocation. They're snakes. Maybe in other games they would be a lot scarier, but in the context of RE4, not scary at all. Villagers are the basic enemy type, and appear most frequently in the first section of the game. They wield a range of different weapons from kitchen knives to pitchforks. Despite them being relatively unthreatening, there were definite moments where they were scary to go against. It's very much a numbers-based thing for the villagers. In the midst of a battle, a sudden pitchfork being rammed towards you can actually be quite shocking. Fighting multiple at once as dynamite or molotovs are tossed at you can give moments of feeling uneasy, but I wouldn't say scary. Armadura are the armored suits with the plaga inside. These I honestly find to be one of the least scary and menacing enemies within the game. They were more annoying for me, with their movement often making a clear shot on the plagas hard. They were slow, easy to avoid, and had a bunch of ways to counter them. Cool visual designs, but not scary for me. Slightly scary is next up. Colmilos, or the dogs, are not it in this game, and I think for their scare factor, the original did a better job. They look pretty goofy in game, with the teeth just looking a bit odd. Gameplay wise, they are scary, with how fast they move, and the decent damage they do. There were some jump scare moments that threw me off during the maze section with these things. Overall though, not so bad. Del Lago was a much easier fight for me in the remake, and largely for the much more fluid controls. It overall made Del Lago not that scary. It's a big fish that gets taken down with a couple harpoons. The size of it is something, but doesn't really make up for much. I think it's hard to judge for this one because we don't ever really get a good view of it. Even during the times where it's meant to be tense and sneaking up on you, it was hard to feel scared or threatened, as I could see it splashing around in the distance. Novistadors. Novistadors in gameplay are not scary in the slightest, I find. They go down easily, and even when they manage to get the jump on you with their camouflage, they go down in a couple shots. It's only really the lore behind them, and the fact they were somehow human before, that kind of creeps me out. When I read that note down in the dungeons, it was pretty unsettling, but largely these things don't do much for me. Zealots are the basic enemy type that you face in the castle section of the game. They come in 4 forms: crossbow zealots, scythe zealots, torch zealots, and shield zealots, and they are a whole lot more deadly and intimidating than the regular villagers. The zealots are generally much more coordinated than the villagers, and with the pairing of shields approaching and crossbow bolts raining down, they can feel much more intimidating to face. They also have a much more physically scarier look, with their robes and masks, and generally cultier appearance. Soldiers are the basic enemy type that appear on the island. They have shock batons, clubs, and RPGs, which is nice. They also man turrets. They are definitely the most formidable of the basic enemies, particularly when their shield types come into the mix, which are metal and impenetrable by means of your weapons. The combination of rockets and turrets being aimed at you can be pretty scary. Ganado Desnucado are the first enemy type you encounter that I think is truly pretty creepy, with it stumbling down the stairs, its head cranked to the side as it stumbles toward you. I wanted to separate these enemies as they're a little different, and I think have some definite creepy flair to them. Tilted heads are just creepy for me. Whatever context, it's disturbing to look at them. El Gigante is a situation where size doesn't mean everything. These guys are big, but by no means are they that scary really. Maybe they're somewhat made less threatening by the circumstances you encounter them in, as the first time ammo is thrown at you practically, and the second time you can just drop them into an insta-kill hole. So yeah, didn't do it for me. It can be a little scary when they start charging at you though, I guess. Pretty scary is our next tier. Plaga Gardana are the regular enemies who spout a large scythe-like bone weapon from their heads, from a meaty mass. These things are scaled up a lot from the original, and when I first encountered them, I found them pretty scary to be honest, particularly in lower lit areas, where they can take you off guard. They're also quite threatening in tighter areas where they can easily whip you. Where they really feel threatening is in groups, much like the basic villagers. Overall, pretty creepy design though. Plaga Mandibula are the second type of head-sprouting enemies, with these ones having a much larger thing spawning out. These feel a little more threatening, I think, as they can one-shot you. These things can cling to the ceiling in this really creepy way, and if you're too close, they'll simply chomp your head off. I would say they're less threatening in gameplay though, with them being extremely easy to kill once they expose their mouth. Ramon Salazar is one of the bosses that I don't think is meant to feel particularly scary. He's meant to mainly feel threatening due to the massive enemies he's able to send your way, and less because of the guy himself. Really though, he's pretty pathetic and whiny, and this continues even into the boss fight, where you can kill him with an egg. A well done character, but I don't think his purpose in the castle section was to be scary. I did like the boss mutation though. That thing crawling around and spewing stuff at you wasn't the nicest. Plagas are the little spider-like enemies that scuttle about and either try to attack you or attach themselves onto the basic enemies. These things are actually pretty scary to face, I think. The way they crawl about means they often sneak up on you, and the fact they blend in very well with the surroundings. They also have one of the creepiest visuals when they attach onto an enemy, and they root themselves into them. It's very visually disturbing, and one of the times during the game I was audibly like, what the fuck? Chainsaw wielders. I'm basically just rolling in all chainsaw wielding enemies into one. The chainsaw characters have a few attacks, but one of the things that makes them fairly scary to face is 1, they have a chainsaw, and 2, they are absolute bullet sponges, who can often be hard to stagger. They're also particularly scary in groups of enemies, as if you get grabbed, chainsaws can instantly end you. Fairly creepy designs, but these characters are mainly held up by their tankiness and their choice of weaponry. Brutes are new, I believe, to RE4 Remastered, and despite them not being visually that scary, just being these big dudes with bullheads on them, they do make up for it in their gameplay. They wield big hammers, or like these arm guns, and they run at you, spinning in circles, and slamming and just tanking a lot of damage. These guys are pretty scary, particularly as they appear lots in the early game when you're largely underpowered. Garradors are another enemy similar to Verdugo that I don't find as scary this time round. Maybe it's because I've seen them before and so they don't quite do it for me so much, but I personally didn't find them quite as scary. I think it's down to movement. In the original you could barely move, so these erratic flailing enemies were pretty scary. Here you can just crouch around and maneuver away fairly easily. Still very scary designs, and the way they attack you can be pretty terrifying. I won't deny that. Bitores Mendez was maybe the scariest enemy for me back in the original, particularly for his boss fight mutation, which is the most disturbing looking thing. He's still very scary to go up against in the remake, I just personally preferred the original look a bit more. Big, scary, silent guy who's chasing you throughout the village. Pretty scary. Verdugo I actually found a little less scary than in the original, and I think it largely came down to the remaster's much more free movement. In the original, you had this fast moving and attacking enemy that would slash at you in a flash, where here, you can look around you easily. You can run and aim and shoot as you go. There's nowhere near as much tension due to that, I find. With that said, it's still a really amazing fight, and the Verdugo design in the remastered version looks so amazing. Overall, pretty scary. It's still super fast and can catch you off guard a lot. It's also creepy how it scuttles through the tunnels and stuff. Osmond Sadler I think is still not the scariest despite him being the big boss of the game. He definitely felt more threatening in this game, with his final boss and mutation being much more intimidating, and also the moments through the game where he would stop Leon and Ashley and cause these disturbing moments where he would like mind control them. I'm going to accredit those to him. Yeah, pretty scary guy. Very scary is our final tier. Jack Krause Krauser is one of the scarier enemies I think out of the lot, and it was the one enemy I found scarier because it felt like Leon was actually a little bit afraid. Where for Salazar or Sadler, he just seemed to think they were mutated weirdos who he could swiftly put down. For Krauser, there was more of a personal stake there, and I think it does make the fight a lot scarier. It was the one fight on my professional run I actually used an RPG for, because I kept messing up at the end. Scary guy, scary fight, and things like his attacks and his visual mutated design were all done very well, I think, combining the direct fights with having to maneuver your way through traps and such. Regenerators are a lot scarier in presentation than in the original, I think. I think much of the horror of these enemies is heightened by the surrounding atmosphere and situation. You're in one of the tighter areas of the game, confined in with enemies that are capable of regenerating, and now can reach you from across the room with a grab. The way these things flop about, and things like the Iron Maiden mutation for them too, the whole thing, just very scary. They kept those creepy faces too. What's most terrifying about them though, is of course, the jiggle physics. Red Robe Zealots, I think, are maybe the scariest enemy for me. Whenever I heard these guys, I would dart my eyes around the room and gun it to them before anything else. No matter what, those guys had to go before the inevitable Gloria las Plagas. Honestly, the scariest enemy for me. They could take a few shots, and they made every regular enemy around you an actual threat in an instant, as well as halting your movement. Their visuals are also genuinely creepy. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know which enemy you found the scariest to face down below. Thanks, and goodbye.